So we've talked a little bit about some of the hurdles there, and training is one of them, and getting the right people. What else do you see as the hurdles to stop people becoming really successful advisory firms?
Well, I mean, obviously subscribing to some of our products would be very, very helpful to us. Tolley Library and Tolley Guidance both provide people with a lot of tools around there. I think, as I mentioned earlier, onboarding clients properly is a really kind of critical step when you're moving into the advisory space. If in Tolley Library and some of the many resources that we have in there, we have our engagement and disengagement letters as well as our practice management tools. But looking beyond the services that we can do for you as well, I think oftentimes people get overwhelmed by the size and the scale of tax advisory. And our tax code is huge. And quite often, if you want to take on a client, you have to be able to offer them everything, or you have to be a peer to be able to offer them everything. So I think, and knowing that no one firm can do absolutely everything, having that network of firms that you can refer work onto, that's the classic one, right? So the country is awash with VAT advisory firms that get a lot of their work from referrals from other smaller firms. And so building up that network so that you can confidently go out and offer a complete service to your clients and sometimes almost be like the front person for it, that you're then kind of farming work out to other people. But then, of course, going back to ourselves as well, if you have something like Tolley Guidance, that can help take you a certain way down it so that you're not referring on all of the fees and you can keep more of the revenue for yourself. Yeah,
it helps make better referrals, doesn't it? Because you don't ask dumb questions. You've framed what you think is the approach, and then you might go to somebody else to say, can you confirm that? Yeah, I mean, certainly in my working lifetime, I've seen the growth of advisory firms of 3 or 4 really expert people. Taxation readers will recognise some of those firms as regular contributors, and they are available to deal with questions. And they have a very strong network as well and know who the right person is to approach on something, because one of the key things about being advisor is knowing your limitations. And you see people get into trouble because they sort of half give advice on something. They say, well, I can't really give you advice on this, and then they go on to sort of give something which probably is half-hearted and may not be correct, and it ends in problems. So I think, coming back to how you grow an advisory practice, part of it is putting the right framework around your people to actually define what advice you're actually giving and how you're giving it, how you're costing it, and how you reach that point that you actually say, actually, this one is not for us, but I can refer it on. If I go to the doctor and I expect my doctor as a GP to be able to deal with most things, but I don't feel insulted if he says, actually, I want a specialist here. I feel, actually, I'm getting good service in that respect. And I think the same thing should apply in our world. But then there's the question of how you pay for it. And I just want a little anecdote here, which taught me a lot. I once saved a client the best part of £100,000 in a phone call that lasted 10 minutes. The context was, it wasn't actually my client, it was one of my colleagues, but I picked up the phone and they explained the situation, and I said, aha, this solves I can't remember what it was, something to do with capital gains tax. I think this solves your problem. You haven't got one. And I felt really good. But then, did my boss feel very good? No, because there was a billing opportunity. Okay, and I'm not talking about ripping clients off, but actually saying to client, look, there was some important work here. We had to research it. Instead of which, well, it was 10 minutes of Andrew's time. It was a very valuable lesson that